All right, let's jump right in. Today we're diving into a story that's really grabbed my attention.
It's certainly a fascinating one.
We've got this fork in the road email that went out to uh, a huge number of federal employees.
Over 2 million to be exact?
Yeah, over 2 million. It was sent directly from the Office of Personnel Management on January 28th.
Right.
So can you imagine opening your inbox and seeing that subject line?
I think my stomach would drop a little bit.
Yeah, fork in the road. It's a little ominous, right?
It definitely sets a certain tone,
Yeah.
and essentially it presents federal employees with a choice.
Yeah, a choice between what?
Will stay in your job and face potential restructuring and all that entails.
Okay, so there's some uncertainty there.
Right, exactly. Or you can opt for a pretty generous severance package.
And that's what really caught my eye when I saw this story.
Yeah, the terms of this offer are pretty remarkable.
So employees who take the buyout would get their full pay and benefits through September 30th of this year.
Regardless of their workload.
Right. That's pretty amazing. And they'd also be exempt from that recent mandate requiring everyone back in the office 5 days a week.
That's a big one for a lot of people.
It is. And it makes you wonder what's really going on here.
Well, I think to understand this fork in the road offer, we need to look back a bit
Okay.
to some of the directives that President Trump issued early in his administration.
The ones about downsizing the federal workforce.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And promoting a return to the office and emphasizing performance-based evaluations.
So are you saying this buyout offer could be a way to encourage employees who aren't on board with those changes to leave voluntarily?
It's definitely a possible interpretation, and it sparked a lot of debate.
I can imagine.
Some people argue it's a necessary step to streamline government and improve efficiency.
Right. Make it more cost-effective.
Others, though, see it as a way to pressure employees into leaving.
Especially those who might be worried about job security or changes to their roles.
Right, because let's be honest, change can be unsettling.
Absolutely. And it's interesting that even unions and attorneys who represent federal employees are urging caution.
They're advising their members not to rush into a decision.
To really think about the long-term implications.
Because this offer, while tempting on the surface, might not be in everyone's best interest.
I think that's really important for people to hear.
Absolutely. There's a lot at stake here, both for individual employees and for the government as a whole.
You know, it makes me think about the services that people rely on.
Right. If a lot of experienced employees leave.
Yeah. Could that impact the quality of those services?
It's a valid concern.
And, another thing that struck me about this whole thing was the email itself.
Oh, yeah.
It's incredibly straightforward.
Where would be the other point?
Employees can literally respond with a single word.
Resign.
Just resign. And that's it.
It's efficient, I'll give it that.
But given the magnitude of this decision, it almost feels a bit impersonal, don't you think?
It does make you wonder about the human element in all of this.
Yeah. Where's the empathy?
And it raises another question. What happens next?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Who fills the void left by those who choose to leave?
That's a great question, and it leads us perfectly to our next topic.
Okay, let's talk about it.
Okay.
Okay, so the very next day, January 29th, the government announces they're launching this thing called ChatGPT.gov.
ChatGPT.gov.
It just makes me wonder, are these two things connected somehow?
Well, the timing is certainly interesting.
It is, right. Like, what is ChatGPT.gov? I've heard the name, but...
Yeah, so it's basically a specialized version of ChatGPT.
That's the chatbot from OpenAI, right?
Right, exactly. And this version is specifically designed for U.S. government agencies.
Okay, but what does that even mean? Like, is it like a digital assistant for government workers?
I think it's more than just an assistant.
Right.
Think of it as like a powerful tool for streamlining all sorts of government processes.
Streamlining how?
Well, it's got all these features like secure conversation storage, for example, and the ability to upload and process different types of files. Agencies can even create custom search and chat systems for their specific needs.
Wow, that sounds pretty sophisticated.
It is. But I know what you're thinking.
What am I thinking?
Security.
Oh, yeah, of course.
Are we really going to trust an AI with sensitive government information?
Exactly.
Well, that's something the developers definitely took seriously.
Okay, good.
ChatGPT.gov is deployed within Microsoft Azure cloud environments.
Azure.
Yeah, which means it benefits from all of Azure's security features.
Like what?
Things like compliance with government regulations, data protection standards, all that good stuff.
So it's not just about convenience then?
No, it's also about security and responsibility.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
But going back to my initial thought about these two events being connected,
Yeah.
how could ChatGPT.gov play into this whole fork in the road situation?
Well, remember those goals that President Trump outlined in his directives.
Downsizing, efficiency, performance evaluations.
Right, exactly. And ChatGPT.gov seems to align perfectly with those goals.
How so?
Because it could potentially automate a lot of the tasks that are currently done by human employees.
Ah, okay.
Which would lead to increased efficiency and potentially reduce the need for as many employees.
So are we saying that this is all part of a larger strategy then?
It's definitely possible.
Offer buyouts to reduce the workforce?
Right.
And at the same time, introduce AI to handle some of those tasks.
It's a thought-provoking idea, isn't it?
It is. And while it could lead to a more streamlined and cost-effective government,
yeah,
it also raises some really important questions.
Absolutely.
Like what happens to the employees who are displaced by this technology?
Right. Where do they go?
Is there a plan to retrain them for new roles?
And how do we make sure that crucial government services don't suffer because of these changes?
These are all huge questions.
Then they're not easy to answer.
It makes you wonder if this fork-in-the-road offer is partly about giving employees a choice.
A choice between what?
Adapt to this new world where technology plays a much bigger role.
Right.
Or opt out with a safety net.
It's a fascinating perspective.
And it really highlights the bigger question here.
What's that?
How will AI and automation shape the future of work?
Not just in government, but in all industries.
Right. This is something that everyone needs to be thinking about.
It's not just a government issue, it's a societal issue.
Yeah. This situation with the federal workforce might just be a glimpse into the future.
A future that's coming faster than we think.
It's definitely a lot to process. We've gone from a seemingly simple email about buyouts
Right.
to this much larger conversation about AI and the future of work itself.
And what I find so interesting is how these two events happening so close together might actually be connected in ways we don't fully understand yet.
It's like that saying, is this a coincidence or is this a pattern?
Exactly.
Yeah.
We need to be paying attention to these developments.
And thinking critically about the implications.
Because the choices we make today will shape the world of tomorrow.
Yeah, it really makes you think. It's like we started with this email about buyouts, and now we're talking about the future of work.
And the role of AI in government. It's a lot to unpack.
It is. But it's fascinating how these two events happening so close together could be part of a bigger picture.
It's definitely worth considering that possibility. You know, that saying, is this a coincidence or is this a pattern?
Exactly. It makes you wonder what else is going on behind the scenes.
Well, and that's why it's so important to stay informed.
To read beyond the headline.
Right, and to think critically about the information we're consuming.
Because this isn't just a story about government employees.
It's a story about all of us.
It's about the future of work and the role that technology will play in our lives.
So what can our listeners do? How can they make sense of all this?
Well, I think the first step is to be aware.
To pay attention to these kinds of developments.
And ask questions.
Don't be afraid to challenge the status quo.
To think about the potential implications of these changes, both good and bad.
Because the future isn't something that just happens to us.
We have a role in shaping it.
And that starts with understanding the forces at play.
Well said. This has been a really thought-provoking deep dive.
It has. And I have to admit, I'm still processing everything we've discussed.
Me too. It just goes to show that even seemingly isolated events can be connected in surprising ways.
And that the decisions we make today can have a ripple effect far into the future.
Absolutely. So to everyone listening out there, keep exploring these ideas.
Keep asking questions.
And keep diving deep.
We'll be back soon with another fascinating topic. Until then, stay curious.